We're talking about a favorite in West Michigan, Lindo Mexico. Now, judging from their story, they have had quite a few customers keep coming back, even during the pandemic.
We were changing everything around for those months that we were only doing carryout. It was hard because even though before the pandemic we had carryouts, but it wasn't as demanding. We are so happy of the support of the people because we were busy. There was times that we have probably like 200 orders in a day. Later on, it went a little down, but still, I mean, we have so many loyal customers that support us during those difficult times. Well, it was a little disappointing when they told us that we were going to open only 20% because it was half of what we were doing before, like in September when we opened 50%. But we have to adjust. The only change that we are trying to do, and that's to maintain the health for the employers and also our customers, is that we do by reservations only. So we do take walk-ins only if we have open tables. It's been working great because now we don't have a lot of people, on the hallway waiting, all crowded. So that's really helpful to maintain everybody safe. And now we have DoorDash as well. A lot of people still don't want to go out and meet with other people since we don't have delivery. So DoorDash has been a great option. I believe that big change can still afloat because they have so many restaurants around the country, but local it is hard. It is hard to maintain, to stay open if we don't have the support of the community. To be honest, it's just really, really, really important that they keep going to small businesses, either restaurants, little stores, any kind of shops, mechanics, you name it.
As you heard, the pandemic adjustment for Lindo Mexico is reservations. They will only take walk-ins if tables are available. They are located on 28th Street west of Burlingame in Wyoming, and to order online, their website is lindomexicogr.com, and they are on Facebook. We'll keep up on who's open in West Michigan and posted online, fox17online.com/open. I'm Rob Westerby.
Rob, thanks. 628.
For many, the next few weeks holds a special celebration. 1 year with a furry friend brought home when those lockdowns began. Can't talk today. How one organization is making plans to help more adoptions happen.
All right, 6:31 here on Fox 17 Morning News. It looks like Kevin was working over there on the brakes and the brake pads. Some 3-in-1 oil, some duct tape.
Why do
He was
you
all
sound
good.
like that?
I don't know. I feel like I should talk like this when we're fixing a car.
Yeah, get the car fixed, Mike. Got the car fixed.
What'd you happen to do over there? You put
55
some 3-in-1 oil on that?
$55, a little bit of grease. 2 hours later, she's done.
Oh my!
I don't know. Is that the right mode? I don't know.
I think it's great.
Gotcha. Hey, yeah, that worked out pretty good. So the brake pad was dragging on my wife's car. I could just feel that something wasn't right, and the pads probably only were worn down about 25%. But by the time I tore it off, I didn't catch it right away. It didn't do any damage, except it wore the pad down pretty good. So I went to the auto parts store, and I will tell you for $55 about the best pads, the ceramic copper disc pads that are low dust. Put those puppies on, and I greased them up. I tend to grease everything up because I don't want it to happen again. And if you ever have to remove all that hardware again, first of all, it'll float. The brake caliper floats. It's supposed to move around a little bit. I won't have that problem anymore now. Hopefully, we'll just fly by that, and everything will be fine. And maybe we do the front pads over the next couple of years. But if the front pads look anything like the back ones, we're going to get another probably 10, 15, 20,000 miles out of those, if not more. But anyways, good morning. everybody. As we look out over Grand Rapids, you can see the sky is lightening up. Sunrise now occurring at 7:04. And if you're wondering how warm we got yesterday, we were in the mid-60s along and south of the I-94 corridor. You guys down there will be in the mid to upper 60s today. We were 57 degrees yesterday in Grand Rapids. We'll be in the low 60s there. We were low 50s across our southern counties. We'll be in the mid to upper 50s there. Nothing on radar. And as we pull out to a wider perspective, some high and mid-level cloud cover coming in here from the west. It looks a lot worse on this image than it really is. There are some stars out there, and you can see those. Temperatures are cooler this morning. We are into the low 30s down there across the area, and mid-20s up there in Big Rapids. We do have some areas of fog. It's not real thick, but anything less than a 10-mile visibility is a reduced one, so you'll see a little bit of fog as you head out this morning. So for your Tuesday, we're around the freezing mark right now. We jump into the mid-50s by noon with partly sunny skies, and we'll call it mostly sunny to partly cloudy through the afternoon hours, with temperatures making about the mid-60s, low to mid-60s from Grand Rapids down to the south. Going to be another very enjoyable day with temperatures running 20 to 25 degrees above normal for this time of the year. We can't hang on to these temperatures forever, and we won't. We'll cool down by the weekend, maybe throw some rain in the forecast before we get there. We'll look more closely at the timing of all of that. Plus, have you ever seen a ship floating above the surface of water? It's on the other side of the globe. It recently happened. We've got the photo to prove it, and I will explain exactly what's going on there. That's in my 6:40 weather photo of the day coming up in just a few minutes. Right now, let's check traffic for this Tuesday morning. Here's Rob at 6:35.
And in Fox 17 traffic, we're still on time all around West Michigan. Very little happening, which is just the way you really need it to be in your morning commute or any time of the day or night. On the expressways, full speed in the speed data and no interruptions. The only interruptions that we're going to be seeing is every now and then some construction, or in this case, some traffic signal work going on the overpass of 44th Street over 196 in Granville. This started yesterday, and MDOT describes it as intermittent lane closures for this traffic signal work through June 1st. I'm Ron Westerby, Fox 17 Traffic.
Well, 4 students at Newaygo High School went to the hospital after investigators say another student brought a homemade explosive into the building and it went off.
Officers were dispatched to a classroom around 9 yesterday morning. They say the school was immediately evacuated and students were eventually sent home. In addition to the 4 students injured, officials say the 16-year-old who brought the explosive was hospitalized with serious injuries after it blew up while he was sitting at his desk. State police say the explosive was not intentionally set off, adding that it was an isolated incident. ATF is now assisting with this case and helping look into what exactly the device was made of. The Allegan County Sheriff's Office is looking into some human skeletal remains that were found by hunters in Saugatuck last weekend near 63rd and 134th. The Sheriff's Office recovered the remains this week with the help of WMU's Forensic Anthropology Unit. The remains haven't been identified just yet, and the cause of death remains under investigation.
Well, in honor of the 1-year anniversary of the first cases of COVID-19 in Michigan, Fox 17 is sharing stories of inspiration to those who need it most.
Brody Carter joining us with more from those who've sacrificed so much to keep the people we know and love safe. Brody?
Mike, Deanna, after more than a year of COVID-19 coverage, news about the virus has become an integral part of our everyday lives. So I spoke with 2 frontline workers about what they've had to suffer through, their resilience, now spreading the much-needed message of hope.
I look back on this last year as a year that I'll obviously never forget.
Simply thinking about 2020 can be hard to do, especially for those who came face to face with COVID-19.
We're a level 1 trauma center here in Grand Rapids.
Kendra Piat, managing nurse for Spectrum Butterworth Hospital's emergency department, says the thousands of lives lost due to the virus is a difficult burden to bear. And she remembers the entire year playing out like a nightmare.
Obviously, COVID overshadowed a lot, but we dealt with things like civil unrest, and we had a lot of disturbances that are very unsettling for an emergency department that we had to manage alongside of this pandemic.
For Kendra, it was one disruption after another.
I had a fair amount of my staff that did, get COVID.
I think that we have all dealt with trauma And I think we have all had extreme stress.
Melissa Jones, formerly a registered nurse at Spectrum, was one of the countless nurses who fought on the front lines, ending up with some of the worst symptoms of COVID-19.
I was sick for about 6 weeks, total recovery before I got back to full steam.
Since her story first aired on Fox 17 News back in December, Melissa has stepped down from her duties in the emergency room.
I think it was emotionally taxing watching patients go through treatment of COVID. So after almost a year of kind of being in that environment and taking all of that home and not having a good place to put it when you get home, I took an opportunity to kind of reevaluate what my goals were and for lack of a better explanation, put myself first.
And now 1 year into the pandemic, both Melissa and Kendra say they're shifting their focus, taking what they've learned and lived through and turning it into hope, now sharing it with those around them.
People were providing food for the staff. They were providing numerous letters of gratitude and recognizing healthcare workers over and over again. And that really got us through as well.
And so I think it's from my home life made me appreciate time with my kids more, time with my parents more. Certainly being on lockdown has helped me appreciate going out for dinner.
And as the days become months, become years, those who've suffered and watched those around them suffer too are finding a newfound gratefulness and strength to move forward. Now, we did ask Spectrum Health how many employees have tested positive for COVID-19 since the pandemic. Nearly 3,400 employees out of their 31,000 staff members were infected with the virus at some point. That's more than 10% of their workforce. Simply hard to imagine. Kendra says that Spectrum Butterworth has returned to a 3% admittance of patients at their hospital, and they have hopes that this downward trend will continue with the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine. In studio, Brody Carter, Fox 17 News.
Brody, thank you for that. And many are nearing the 1-year anniversary as well with their furry friends.
2020 was the year for adopting pets as millions found themselves working from home and needing a little extra companionship. Alyssa Heron joining us with what the Bissell Pet Foundation has to say about one of the happier changes last year brought about. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Well, for Kathy Bissell and the rest of the staff at the Bissell Pet Foundation, 2020 was a year of constantly adapting their operations. Starting in West Michigan in 2011, the foundation has steadily expanded, helping to facilitate adoptions, spay and neuter programs, and educational marketing throughout Michigan and beyond. But last year, they saw the need for these types of services skyrocket, with more people having more time at home, inviting more shelters to become active participants in their network of more than 5,000 partner organizations. Bissell also says that they've been seeing cats in particular being adopted in much higher numbers.
For our numbers, we've gone up, probably 8,000 adoptions since last year, but it's a little bit different because we invited more shelters. Is that it used to be kind of 1 for 1, dog for cat. So people are always like, you're always talking about the dogs, but really the cats go out in equal numbers. But during COVID, people adopted 2 cats instead of just 1. So more cats went out than dogs.
And of course, shelters will remind you that adopting a pet is a long-term commitment, so make sure that you're ready for that change it will bring. For now, in the newsroom, Alyssa Heron, Fox 17 News.
All right, it is 6:42.
Otsego Township deciding whether or not to keep their emergency services, why many say wording on a ballot measure last fall created the issue.
Leaders in Otsego Township fielding questions over the possibility of removing emergency services.
Candace Monticelli joining us with more on how that discussion went. Candace.
Good morning. Yeah, the debate is all over the possibility of stopping first response medical calls. Now, the township went to voters last fall to ask for a millage to increase to pay for those services. Now, voters in Otsego Township say that the question on the ballot was misleading and confusing, so the millage ended up not passing. Now, residents are speaking up over what to do next. 911 calls for the township are currently contracted out through the fire department. So according to the township supervisor, eliminating those services would save the